There you are, sir.
It would help if I unmuted myself now, wouldn't it? Anyways, live tonight, we are July 4th, 2025. Here on the MCU'S Bleeding Edge, we're here to talk about 2 episodes of Andor for you guys, since last week we had an unfortunate cancellation of a show. So we'll be talking about episodes 10 and 11 this week. And we're going to be talking about them, getting into them, ripping them apart, giving you all that good stuff. Now, if you've already watched Andor all the way through, folks, of course, you're always welcome to watch. You're always welcome to comment, all that good stuff, folks. We always appreciate you guys. But we are still trying to do this episodically for you guys every week. This just happens to be a 2-episode week for us. And we are very happy to be talking about Andor, folks. And as always, we are live here tonight with, of course, my co-host, Mr. Jeff S. TrueKnowledge. How we doing, Jeff?
Oh, I'm good, sir. It's always good to talk about something like Andor with lots of good people, So I'm just happy to be here.
And happy to have the fireworks in the background, too.
Yes.
Anyways, we have, of course, returning from the Nights of Nostalgia. How we doing, Drew? How we doing?
Oh, excellent. Hello. I just got off a stream a little earlier in the day, was playing some old video games, and now I am all prepped to talk about Andor for the next couple hours.
Excellent. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Love the pumpkin head shirt. Great shirt, sir. Anyways, and for the first time coming onto the show with us, onto our guest panel, is from the Wookiee Radio Podcast, Mike. How we doing, sir?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing great. Thank you for coming on and joining us. We're looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
That was my pleasure.
Excellent. So, of course, as always, we're going to be talking about Andor, as we have mentioned earlier. Like I said, episode 10 and 11 we'll be discussing. Both episodes were directed by Alonso Rusplicasio. And, of course, we had Tom Bissell as the writer of the episodes. So not Dan Gilroy on these two. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Especially, thinking with the closing of the, series, they would want to have their best writer do all of the final episodes. But what do I know? But, I think Tom Bissell did an okay job. Maybe not the greatest writing, but decently done. So, of course, these 2 episodes, of course, dropped on May. So 2 months ago now, almost, since they aired. So we're just getting finally around to them. But this has been a great show. So what I want to do, since we have not had Mike on before, I just want to ask you, what are your thoughts leading up to episode 10 for Andor season 2, sir? And any thoughts on the first season as well?
Thoughts about the first season? Typical. For it to be covering a 1-year span, 12 episodes, I was okay where, first 3-4 episodes were a little slow because it did tell some backstory behind Cassian, behind Madra, the whole group, how all that came about, how he ended up where, with the last name Andor, once we see that he's part of a different tribe. But about that midway point of episode 4, the pace picks up right where it should be. It almost felt like it was a Joss Whedon type pacing for the show initially, because most Firefly, same thing, started off slow, and then the build was a little slow, and then it just took off. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., slow, and then just took off. Same thing with this, but they did it in a little bit faster pace. They knew they had 12 episodes. They knew they could justify slowing it down just a little bit. Unlike Marvel with Secret Invasion, it's like 6 episodes. They get to episode 4 and realize, oh crap, we only got 2 more episodes. We got to wrap this up. It was paced right. Season 2 really enjoyed, even with the with the slowness of the end of episode 1 into the beginning of episode 2 with the Mutt and Jeff rebellion group after Cassian lands the TIE Avenger. And it's like, all right. But for the most part, I mean, I would have released the shows in a different way, but the 3 episode arcs per, doing per year as a 3 episode arc, I felt also worked. So,
All right, excellent. Thank you, sir. And I can't remember, Drew. Have you done any of the recaps with us so far? I can't remember.
No, sir.
Andor, no.
Okay, so I'd like to get your thoughts, sir, on this season of Andor as well, up to episode 10. Whatever your thoughts have been on that.
So I pretty much adore this season. Outside of there's a couple asterisks in there, but I'm just so happy. Like after, I mean, I personally have not been happy with Star Wars outside of the Andor series. Just on like a writing level. I mean, the member berries and the Star Wars iconography that's like way more present in the other shows. I mean, that doesn't really do it for me if the writing's bad. But in this show, everything feels a lot more grounded, a little bit more real. The world in a whole feels a lot more lived in. There's a lot more care in the characters. So that's the stuff I like to latch onto in a story. So even though, there's not lightsabers every 5 seconds, there's not like, you see a stormtrooper in the background every now and then, I'm fine with that sort of thing. But Andor as a whole, I was going to skip Andor season 1. It took about 4 or 5 people in my life to like tell me like, you have to watch this show. It's not like the other junk. And eventually they wore me down and I did. And I was like, oh, you guys are right. This is actually pretty good. But season 2, I think the first arc is probably the weakest. There's some interesting stuff in there to talk about, but Andor being separated from the rest of like all that else is going on in those episodes feels really weak, especially when he's just surrounded by idiots arguing over, I don't even remember, like the ship and survivability and water. Like, I don't know. It just felt like whatever. But all of the Imperial stuff, Dedra, Partagaz, like I adore every scene with Dedra, Partagaz, and Cyril in them. Anytime Ben Mendelsohn's on the screen, I'm like, yes, let's get more of this. I think Rogue One deserves a rewatch after this season because, I don't want to spoil the ending, but Rogue One I think improves with Andor. Yeah. And then everything leading up into the Gorman arc, I mean, that was all wonderful. I liked all 6 episodes for those 2 middle arcs is just so great with all the like Cyril's arc ending, the Gorman massacre basically being set up and just executed in such a horrifically indifferent fashion by the Imperials. It's all wonderful stuff. Seeing like in the Star Wars universe, it's also nice seeing like bad guys actually being portrayed as competent for once and not like silly clowns that are just getting dunked on by the good guys all the time. Like here, it does like the bad guys feel like sinister, and like there's nothing you can do against it because it's just this giant organization. So I appreciate that too, and it really makes the rebels seem like very small in comparison to how well oiled the Empire is shown to be in this, and that's just such a lovely change of pace from, in my opinion, what we've been seeing with a lot of Disney Star Wars. So that's my 2 cents.
I enjoyed the fact that the scariest villain in the series wasn't even part of the Empire. It was Cyril's mom.
Yeah, she's a great character. She's not good, but I liked her quite a bit.
It's the one person Darth Vader is afraid of.
It's like this, like almost like that stereotypical. It's supposed to be like an Italian mom. Like almost like a mobstery sort of Scorsese character.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah, most definitely. I loved Cyril's mom. She cracked me up. She was actually recent in a movie that came out last year with Brandy Norwood. One of the first movies she's done in like years. And she plays like the evil mother-in-law that she has to take care of basically at her house, and she plays it perfectly, and she brought that same flair to her characterization of Cyril's mom. So I think she's a hilarious actress. I think she's good. She's She's so creepy, you just like want to hate her. So I have enjoyed her. All right, great guys, thank you for that. And just to go over to you for a second, Jeff, just your thoughts leading up to this episode, sir.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love Andor season 2. I love Andor in general. I'm really I mean, as much as you can be for like sad to to watch a TV show go, I guess, I'm like really like like very much like enjoying still watching the last couple episodes that are still left for me, with one left still in the tank, to watch. There's definitely a sense for me of like almost like dread, going into the episodes, where I'm like, oh man, like I know that like these characters I really enjoy and like have really fallen in love with on the show are like going away, they're either dying or like disappearing, or leaving the story or whatever, but they're not there in Rogue One, we know that. So I really enjoy talking about Andor in general. I think that season 1 was like a masterpiece, and season 2, besides like Drew said, those first like 2 episodes were really like a little surprising, I guess, a little bit, just because, I mean, as much as some people felt like the first 3 episodes of Andor season 1 were a kind of a slog, kind of like a really slow grind, big time, slow roll of the show that kind of put people off. I still thought they were good episodes, So, I think that once you get past those first 2 episodes of Andor season 2, it really picks up, and it's of course, I'm with Mike. I would have liked to have seen the show come out and get rolled out, episodically every week. That's how Andor season 1 was. So I would have enjoyed having that same thing happen. But I enjoy the show so much. I don't care, how that they released it the way they did with the 3 episode, drops. It is what it is, But I don't want to see a lot of that in the future with other shows, at all. Not a fan of it. But streaming is weird like that sometimes. They just kind of do different stuff. But I mean, Andor season 2 up until episode 10 and the final 3 episode arc is outstanding. We're coming off of like some really good episodes, in a row. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, it looks like saying goodbye to some people like, like Mom Mothma, that, where we're not going to see them again in the show. You know what I'm saying? Again, I still have 1 episode to watch, right? But I'm not, unless she just pops up, I don't really see her, having really, any scenes at all, for the rest of the show. Unless they, I don't know, unless they decide to, you guys already know, unless they decide to, do some kind of around the, the character, kind of like, type, set of scenes in the finale where they, kind of just, show everybody where they're at. I think she's kind of done, and she's been great. I don't know if she was good enough to be nominated for an Emmy, but I'd like to see her get nominated, to be honest with you, Mom Mothma. Genevieve O'Reilly, I think she's outstanding. And, I think Skarsgård is definitely going to get nominated probably this year, for Andor season 2. I think he deserves it, more than Diego Luna. I mean, he got nominated last year, or last season, first season. I know he's the lead, but I feel like, Luthen Rial is just such a, pivotal character, in season 2, right? And of course in the series overall, there's so many great characters that it's almost like you don't know who should get rewarded, more than the other, group, what I mean, than the other, actors, right? But I expect this season to be highly rewarded, and could even get nominated for a Golden Globe or 2 potentially, in multiple in multiple categories. You know what I'm saying? You know, acting, writing, you know, special effects, you know, the soundtrack, you know, the score, I think could get nominated, you know, you know, so yeah, I think Disney's got to be really happy with what they got out of this show, you know, and they certainly invested heavily into it, you know, without question. I still can't believe that they actually paid $275 million for Andor season 2. It's worth it, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it looks fucking great. You know, season 2 looks fucking epic compared to season 1. To be honest with you, season 1 is a lot more edgier and dirtier and grittier, you know, and darker. Season 2 has a lot more epic shots and like, you know, scenes. You know, more space scenes. I just love what Tony Gilroy's done. He's just outstanding, man. And if you ever watch any of his interviews when he talks about Andor, they're outstanding. They're wonderful interviews, you know, just his whole mindset and like mentality with the show, what he, you know, why he decided to do some of the stuff that they did. It's really interesting to hear, you know, yeah, I'll miss it, you know, when it's gone without question. And, you know, it'll be Ahsoka season 2, Cyber, before we cover Star Wars again, unless something else, you know, comes out of nowhere or something, you know. You know, I'm just savoring this while I can enjoy it, I guess. But that's pretty much it, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, so getting into episode 10, which is called Make It Stop. Basically, the episode starts off 1 year after the events of Gorman. Lonnie reports to Luthen that the Empire's Grand Energy Project is actually a weapon, and that Deidre has likely uncovered their identities. Though Luthen initially promises Lonnie and his family safe passage from Coruscant, he kills him to ensure his silence. As Luthen destroys the communication systems in his shop, Deidre confronts him with the stolen Starpath unit, deducing he is Axis. So we'll stop there before we get into pretty much the latter half of the episode. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, that whole situation, his conversation, you know, with, you know, Lonnie, and then he ends up being killed. You see him afterwards and he's shot. We see Deidre try to figure things out as well. We see Luthen in his prime, you know, thinking of ways to fix things and finish things and, you know, keep moving on with the rebellion we see in this portion. And we just really kind of get an interesting kind of like more thought process of who Luthen is and kind of, you know, his kind of, you know, thinking process and stuff like that here, and how he's trying to make sure that his plan, you know, succeeds. So what are you guys' thoughts on that section leading up to Deidre confronting him with the stolen item? And just your overall thoughts, kind of that beginning section and the killing of Lonnie. And I'll start with you, Mr. Drew.
The opening of this episode might be the strongest opening of all the Andor episodes, to me anyway. I love the character of Luthen, and I was sort of already aware that we were at least going to be getting an episode that was going to be mainly focusing specifically on him and Clea. So I was excited to know that, like, when it started, I was like, oh, this is going to be the Luthen episode. So yeah, I mean, R.I.P. to the hero. The rebellion will never know. Lonnie Young, probably one of the most important. I don't know if he actually understood his own importance in this whole thing, but like the rebellion does not survive without Lonnie and Luthen's involvement. Lonnie doesn't seem to be aware of the at least exactly the kind of person Luthen is. He still seems to be under the idea that Luthen will provide him with sanctuary or shelter once his usefulness runs out. But I think like everybody's watching this is like, yeah, we know where this is headed. Like you're a liability now. You can't live now, especially now that you've essentially outed yourself as being a spy. Like he even says, I rang the big bell because I'm burned. You know, they're on to me. They're going to be on me within a few hours. You know, so like the conversation on the bench once again, it feels very like almost like a mobster-ish sort of like Godfather. I don't know, but like Luthen is desperately playing every card he can to try and just get Lonnie to spill the beans. Lonnie is trying to leverage for information until he finally does just tell Luthen exactly like all the, Scarif, Galen Erso, super weapon for the Empire. They don't quite know that it's a planet killer yet, but they just know there's a weapon. Kyber, Gorman, all the stuff that Lonnie just expels to Luthen, and we get a couple. The music gets really strong and swells, and we get a couple Dutch angles afterwards after he's sort of walking away, and yeah, we just that shot of the park bench. I was like, oh, this is some sort of mobster movie I'm watching, where it just shows Lonnie sitting there. And then followed up, we have another wonderfully written dialogue scene between Luthen and Dedra. Like Dedra, like this is her white whale. You know, she finally found it. And she just couldn't help herself. She had to have a go in there and exchange some words with him first. You know, she could have just went in, took him by force, but instead, you know, she just wanted that satisfaction of busting Axis, since that's been her thing for years and years now. And of course, you know, he's on to her. She at that point does not realize that. She thinks she's caught him with his pants down, and that's when she notices. You know, when she notices all the he's already been torching like his place, and then of course he kind of attempts to off himself. One little gripe I have with this scene is the somebody like Luthen, I feel like would have had a more permanent measure of getting rid. Like, I understand we need to have this like ticking clock element for the rest of the episode involving Clay and all that, but to me, I was just like, man, like we already established that he has a blaster on him. I mean, he shot Lonnie. Couldn't he have gotten knocked, like, you know, unalived himself pretty more efficiently than with this ancient ceremonial knife thing? I don't know. It's more of a stylistic choice. I get it, but I was just like, man, somebody like Luthen, I don't think would have hesitated at all to just, you know, the headshot, you know. But it's fine. So the dialogue though is so interesting. A lot of it all has double meanings. I absolutely loved the when she's asking about the stuff in his gallery, and she asks if any of it is real, and he says like two of the things in the gallery are of questionable provenance, you know, which is a wonderful little line. Yeah, I mean, I just adore all this stuff leading into we're now going to be getting into you know, point A leads to point B, leads to point C. You know, this happens, and all of these like words like Galen, Kyber, Scarif, all these like crazy important things that are going to come into Rogue One, and you know, inevitably A New Hope. It's all just now. It's like a game of telephone. It's just people passing on words, and if any one of these people happens to get knocked out of the game, it's over for the rebellion. So I really like that aspect of this arc.
I agree with Drew on a lot of it. But I also love some of the subtleties, like Luthen shoots and like no one around the area hears the blaster bolt. Okay, fine. But then the Lothcat just sitting there nibbling at him, rubbing against him, realizing nothing's happening, and then it's just some of the minor stuff that they threw in just to, I don't know if it was to release the tension of the scene a little bit, or just to help add to what the environment was like during that time, because there's been so much, you know, stabbing in the back going on there on Coruscant that this is just a normal thing. Everything in the antique shop, I also agree. I thought the way Luthen tried to off himself was a little cowardly. I would have rather seen him break out the.
Mike Cyber's going to go to you on the scene. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, just so you know.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So, all right. So thank you, Drew. That was great. Great job. So going over to you, Mike. Yeah, most definitely. Ask the same question. You know, what are your thoughts on that? And then, of course, as you continue with your rebuttal there, go right ahead, sir.
I apologize.
Okay. You're good.
You know, as I was saying, I think with Luthen trying to off himself the way he did. I'd rather have seen him break out the blaster, fire a shot towards Deidre, distract her, and then take the final shot himself. That way he had more of a clear opportunity to do it. As I said on my other piece earlier.
Okay. Anything else about the beginning of the episode, sir?
No, great start. It was a great start.
All right, thank you. All right, Jeff, your thoughts are on the beginning of the episode, leading up to Deidre confronting the Luthen.
Yeah, Deidre's great. I mean, she's that actress is great. She's done a lot with that character. The whole ISB. Anytime Drew was talking about, anytime that you get the ISB people in scenes together, or them working, on something or whatever. I love it. I just think it's outstanding. Riveting. I love the way that they handled the initial leak, right, of the Death Star info. The way that they went ahead and handled it, I thought was really handled well. Hats off to Tony Gilroy, as always. It's just a great, having Luthen kill him like that. Although I get where Mike's coming from and where Drew's coming from with how did nobody not hear it? You know what I'm saying? Or not even realize it happened. That just, I get where that's coming from. It works well, for the, the whole, episode, for the story of the episode, it works well. And it fits Luthen's, kind of character, in terms of, what he's done in the past with other people, with information and, things like that. So, it's not surprising for, that happened at all. You're not surprised really, I think, in the audience with Luthen. The way that they handled, him and Clea, and him relaying the information to Clea, and her trying to store it, and prepare to pass it on was really, really well done and really fun to see. Clea has really been strong here at the end, as a character. That actor's been great. Since Drew opened it up, the Deidre Luthen scene is really really riveting, really high stakes, really well played and well acted and well directed overall, I think. It's just outstanding acting, great mix of characters, to get them together finally, you know what I'm saying? And really bad move on her part to go in alone, that was not a good decision, which, I mean, she's going to pay her the price for that anyway, you know what I'm saying? But, that was not smart on her part at all, but it makes sense. It's that Deidre would do that,
Hubris.
Yeah, but it makes sense, based off of the character arc that we've seen Deidre have from season 1 to season 2, over these years that have passed. I'm not shocked that Deidre would do that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem surprising that she would walk in like that alone, because it's the pinnacle of her work. You know what I'm saying? She spent years on Atlas, of course she would walk in alone. You know what I mean? To take him, and talk to him. That's so tempting, to do it, so you can't blame her in a way. You know what I mean? It works out well. I was not shocked that Luthen tried to kill himself. I was shocked he used a blade. The other guys have already mentioned he had a laser, so I don't know why he didn't just one tap himself to the head with a laser. Why he went with the ancient blade or whatever. I have no idea. But very poetic way to end your life, with a knife. The way they show the rebellion and the revolution in Andor season 2 and in Andor in general is just outstanding. I love it, and I think that I think in the future people that that try to make other things in that with that genre are going to look at Andor for how to do it, right. But that's it, Cyber.
All right, sir. Thank you. Good job. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so yeah, basically since we went into the Luthen death, you know, like I hadn't gotten to that part, but yeah, definitely that was surprising. But at the same time, as we have mentioned, you know, basically kind of in, you know, cross chatter as we've reviewed season 1 and season 2 so far, we know pretty much everyone dies, you know, in order to get this fulfilled so that the rebellion has a chance to destroy the first Death Star. So, you know, it's not really that shocking, but at the same time, it's kind of like, oh man, it's too bad because I wanted more Stellan Skarsgård, you know? So, you know, it's kind of that type of thing, like, oh man, what a waste of a great, you know, character and actor and stuff like that. So, but yeah, was definitely great job, guys. All right, so moving on from there. So yeah, like I said, Luthen attempts suicide to avoid interrogation, but is taken alive to a hospital, while Clea watches from afar. Flashbacks reveal that Luthen is a former Imperial sergeant, Lear, who defected after his unit massacred Clea's hometown. Finding Clea hiding on a ship, he informally adopts her and they begin selling antiques while waging resistance against the Empire. In the present, Deidre is arrested for her overreach, and Clea infiltrates the hospital and disconnects Luthen's life support system. So I thought it was kind of interesting how they decided to do some flashbacks in this episode, you know, especially, you know, with, you know, kind of Luthen and Clea's kind of history, like kind of their beginning. I don't mind flashbacks, but I like it to be set up right. I thought they didn't set it up very well because it didn't like say, oh, going back this many years or going back to blah, blah, blah. It just all of a sudden, you know, went into it. And it didn't give really any explanation. I mean, unless you're really paying attention, you're not going to understand that. I mean, some people are probably going to be like, I didn't get it. And some people are like, okay, I got it. Yes, most definitely. But I feel like better segue into doing flashbacks, I always prefer. And I think that they did a crappy job, in my opinion, in their flashbacks in this episode. But I think that it was interesting how they had, you know, showed Clea getting into the hospital and, you know, basically making her way to basically take Luthen off life support. And you're like, oh, damn, thought she was going to save him. And, but at the same time, like I said before, you know, pretty much everyone's got to die in order for this plan to get through. So it's kind of just how it works. But I thought that, you know, that for me, I thought the ending was pretty interesting for the most part and kind of an interesting way to end the episode. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this portion of the episode, the final half of this episode. What did you think about the flashbacks? What did you think about the Clea backstory and the Luthen backstory? Did you find it interesting that he was formerly an Imperial sergeant and so forth? And this time I'll start with you, Jeff.
Yeah, I was okay with the flashbacks. You know, Cyber. You know, I don't. I'm pretty, you know, connected in. I'm pretty, you know, deep in with Andor, you know, as a watcher. So, I didn't feel any sense of not understanding what was happening really, you know, all that much. I would have liked a little bit more detail, I guess, you know, about what was happening with the flashbacks initially, but they still worked. You know, you figure out what's going on with it, you know, and that's Clea, you know, and all that. And, they're good. They're well done. They're a nice addition to the season. You know, we haven't had a lot of flashbacks really at all. You know, so I like that. I like that you know concept being played out the way that it did. It was different, you know, but entertaining, I think. And you know, I liked getting that bit of backstory for Luthen and Clea. I thought it was a nice touch, you know, and you know, they did a really good job of de-aging Skarsgård for those scenes. You know, and yeah, I mean, look, Coruscant looks epic. In Andor, you know, it looks absolutely amazing. It looks so epic, you know, the structures, the buildings, the apartment buildings, you know, the all the concrete involved, you know, in reality to like, you know, building all this stuff, you know, it's epic, You know, it's scale of it. You know, the way they depict it in Andor season 2. You know, I love it. How rich Coruscant looks. You know, you know, I wish that they would go down to like the underworld part of Coruscant, you know, like or whatever, you know, to that, you know, that like darker section, you know, where they don't have the lights not down there and all that. I'd love to see that too, but you know, yeah, you know, I did think Clea was trying to save Luthen, you know, but I mean, I understood why she did what she did, you know, and I don't know why she didn't just kill him overall, you know, because it seemed like he was still alive after she left. Like they were still acting like he was still alive, you know. So I don't know how successful she was with turning off life support. You know what I'm saying? I hope she got it done, you know. But Clea was great. You know, her arc's been very interesting in the season, and you know, seeing her operate on her own the way she did was really compelling and very entertaining and interesting. And yeah, you know, I loved seeing her set off those distracting explosions the way she did. That was really well done. You know, they do a good job of handling spy shit in Andor. It's good. It's fun. And you know, spy shit when done well is good. People like it, you know. So pretty much, you know, I wasn't shocked at all that Deidre got arrested. I saw that coming completely. It was obvious that was going to happen. She went too far, you know, and you know, she fucked up, you know. So you know, we'll talk about it more with episode, you know, 11, you know. But you know, I kind of saw that coming, you know, and so I really wasn't all that shocked. But it's sad to see Deidre go out like that as a character, you know. And you know, ending up, you know, imprisoned by the, you know, by the fucking Empire, you know what I'm saying? But you know, what are you gonna do, right? That's, you know, that's the price you got to pay, I guess, you know, when you deal with the devil. Plus she was a scavenger or whatever, you know, like what's his name, you know, like what's his name said. So you know, she didn't make the best decisions, Deidre, you know, but very great, very compelling, very fun character though. And you know, episode 11 was great. Or 10, I'm sorry, episode 10 was great. Sorry about that, guys. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, Cyber, I mean, you know, sad to see Luthen go, you know, for the show. But I'm glad that they kind of gave him his own episode in a way in episode 10, you know. It's a good way to take him, good way to send him off, I thought. You know, and seeing him younger, his character was very positive, I thought, you know, gave him a more positive outlook for him, you know, as he gets sent off, you know. So yeah, that's it, Cyber. It's really good. Good stuff.
All right, sir. Thank you. Good job. 10 billion points for you, sir. Fantastic delivery. All right. Going over to you, Mike. Your thoughts, sir, on the conclusion of episode 10 and just any overall thoughts on the rest of the episode, sir.
I'm a huge droid fan. So seeing the gurney droid, I'm like, ooh, I like this. I want to see this droid with the gurney show up vintage collection somewhere. I think too much for Black Series, but vintage collection. I really dug how the CSI team came in as well.
Oh yeah.
In this episode. That was pretty awesome. It's like, okay, so ISB does have a CSI. This is cool. The Empire does have this. But whether it's on the straight and narrow or not, who knows? But
hey, and their machines looked real and everything, didn't they?
Yeah,
like functional, right, Mike? Like it wasn't like the Acolyte, you know?
Yeah.
Oh God.
The flashbacks. I had no problems with the flashbacks. Once I saw they went back and it was not modern because we see Clea younger. It's like, okay, we've gone back. I thought they had gone back to still like the very tail end of the Clone Wars. And until they mention Imperial, and then I'm like, okay, then we're in that era right after around the Bad Batch era, maybe the third season of Bad Batch. Possibly. I love that, but I think to me, as we talked about, strong beginning, I thought this also had the strongest ending to an episode. She pulls the plug on Luthen. She stays there. Well, we see the body at the end, and it's just a slow fade to the credits. And I just loved the emotion that brought. Is like, this is the end of Luthen. This is the end of his tale. He deserves that slow out. And I really, really enjoyed that.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Applaud to the droid talk too. Absolutely love talk about droids.
Oh, yeah, and Cyber too. There was a really great moment where they actually tried to add some humor into Andor for once, where they had her in the elevator with that alien, and the alien talked, and Clay was like, "What?"
Yep. They did. Yep, that is true.
A little bit of levity.
I love I love how all the speculation was that was the ET alien was what they used for the grandma.
Hilarious. Very hilarious. All right. Thank you, Mike, sir. Billion points for you too as well, sir. Very well put. All right. Over to you, Drew. Your thoughts, sir, on the conclusion of episode 10, sir.
Loved it. This is actually in my top 3 of all Andor episodes. So very strong start, strong finish. I do want to just make a note that in like 4 short flashbacks, they told a better like wolf and cub story than 3 seasons of Mandalorian did. I think that's interesting. That the Clay Luthen thing is infinitely more interesting than Grogu Mando, whatever relationship that is. At least I do. But the flashbacks. I never had any sort of issue with the flashbacks. I thought it was pretty obvious. I thought it wasn't just a flashback for flashback's sake. What I got was we're basically going through Clay's memories as she's heading towards to finish off her essentially surrogate father. So I was fine with the way they did it. It would have been interesting if Tony Gilroy would have gotten his like 4 or 5 season like series. Obviously, we could have fleshed out some stuff a little bit better. Maybe like this whole thing would have presumably been 1 season instead of 3 episodes. So certain things could have breathed a little bit more, I guess. But like maybe we would have gotten the flashbacks peppered throughout the season instead of all just back to back to back to back. But with the way they did it, I enjoyed it. The stuff in the hospital all felt sort of video game-ish to me, like a covert level of James Bond or anything like that. Solid Snake or Metal Gear Solid.
Hitman.
Hitman. Like it did help establish just how well trained Clea is. Like she basically put this whole operation together in a matter of like, I don't know, an hour, and executed it perfectly and caught everybody off guard to the point where they think that like an entire team like broke in and took over. And all it really did was like she stole a nurse outfit. She had a explosion, like a distraction, and then she had off like 2 or 3 troopers at her way just to get to Luthen. So it was guarded. I guess you could make the argument that he should have been a little more heavily guarded, but I chalk that up to her distraction explosion, getting a lot of the guards out of there. I enjoyed the little humor there. As Mike was saying, when I first saw the first flashback, obviously the episode, the titular title name drop here, Make It Stop, is Luthen having like a little bit of a breakdown as they're wiping out like some presumably innocent folks. When I was watching this initially, I too was like, what's happening? Is like, because I was still, their backstory is still a little bit nebulous and we don't really know too much about them. I was under the impression like, oh, is this like Order 66? Is that what's happening right now? Or like, I didn't know exactly what the time frame was. And I was like, are they going to make like Clea like an escaped, Padawan or something like that? And I'm like, no, they're probably not going to do that. That would be that's too like Star Warsy for this show, which is kind of funny. And I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. I know there was all these theories that Luthen was going to end up being a secret Jedi and stuff, and I'm glad it really didn't take it in that direction. I'm actually quite happy with the fact that they're literally just 2 people that realize that they need to fight back against this horrible thing that's not going to stop. And the way that we see Luthen basically raising Clea, even though he has this sort of facade that like, yeah, I'm your father when it's useful or whatever. But I get the vibe now that he truly, absolutely cared for Clea, and the sunset he was talking about in season 1 that he'll never get to see. Like the subtext now there is that he was willing to off himself so that Clea could have a better future. I think that was pretty powerful that they did that, and that I was pretty sure that Clea was going there to give him the old cuckoo's nest sort of ending. I don't like to see you like this, pillow over the face, but they did it as tastefully as they could. I too was a little bit like, oh, is he really dead? Like, you just pulled the ventilator. I mean, they could just plug it back in, can't they? But with the very like solemn, very very solemn fade out at the end, I'm like, oh, that's definitely that's a death. That's not a. They're not going to just plug him back into next episode. That would be weird if they, after all that goodwill to like show that he's gone now, with her sort of kissing him goodbye and stuff, is really really strong emotional stuff. It's definitely more emotion than I felt in Star Wars in a long time with that. And I know I wasn't present for the Gorman discussion, but there was some stuff in there that I was like, man, this is good. Like somebody wanted to tell the story. Like somebody really thought this out, So it's just, I really do appreciate all this goodwill that Tony Gilroy put in. And it's nothing short of a miracle that they gave him, what, $275 million for this? I don't know how they can keep pumping that kind of money into Star Wars.
God, no.
I mean, like you said, at least we saw where the money went. Like, I mean, that entire Gorman set they built, it was like a small town that they built, and they shot so much. They got so much footage off of that set, and everything looks real. Everything looks lived in. It's amazing. Like I believe that this thing was that expensive because it looks great. I don't know where the money for Acolyte went to because that looked like shit. But
I know anybody who can make a solid 1 hour breakdown of where the money for Acolyte went to for YouTube, would be a star.
It's like the Simpsons monorail guy. He left town with all the money and built a crappy monorail. But yeah, I mean, this is a wonderful episode. Loved it. Loved every bit of it.
Yeah, I just want to bounce off Drew real quick. He's right. Drew's right. Nobody can afford to continue to make seasons of television shows at $275 million a season. That shit's fucking crazy, man. Yeah. Honestly, it's scary. Because realistically, like that's just way higher than any other TV show's ever cost before, ever. Even like Game of Thrones never even came close to that. Yeah. It's just insane. You're right, Drew. Their use of physical sets and all that, it really worked well, all the the little things like costume design is really well done on Andor, like all that stuff is, everything about Andor is well done, it's all good.
Well, even the Gorman language was like, it's this fake language design to sort of sound like a blend of French and like Star Wars language. And so like almost all of the actors were French that they got to speak this language so that it would actually sound like very authentic, like on the ears for these people that were speaking like a native language. And it's like just that care alone to think that far into the production of like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We need these people to voice it so it sounds better. It's just like, man, there's a lot of care put into this.
Well, it's like with the Harvest Planet. They actually planted the crops.
Yeah.
And then when the strike happened, the writer strike happened and no one was acting, or the actor strike had happened as well. The crops died off because they didn't get back to them in the time frame that they were hoping to for filming because of the strike. So they went back and replanted everything. And of course, afterwards, everything was donated to the communities in the area. But the fact that, even with the crops, that was the real thing you saw. It wasn't CGI. It wasn't whatever. It was the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Excellent, guys. Thank you. Great volleys. Thank you, Drew. Great job, sir. Billing points for you too as well, sir. Thank you very much. All right, so going around the table, what would you give the episode from 1 to 10? Starting with you, Drew.
It's an easy 9. It's I don't give out 10s very that's super rare in my life to give like a perfect score, but this is probably going to be one of the as close as you can. There's some little tiny things you could probably nitpick to this, but it's a solid 9.
Okay. Mr. Jeff.
I'll give it a 10, sir. I don't mind dropping a 10 when it comes to Andor. I feel like it's always like worth it, or justified. You know what I'm saying? And episode 10 is a really, really good episode of television. There's a reason why the IMDb rating on it is as high as it is. It's really good. 9 point, easily a 10 out of 10, sir.
All right, Mr. Mike, what would you give it, sir? 1 through 10.
I gotta think about this because we use a different rating system over on Wookiee Radio and over at Mighty Marvel Geeks. We've borrowed the Michael Rosenbaum system that he has.
Yep.
Where everything's a 0, and so like straight down the middle if we're talking baseball, and then you go down to -3 or up to +3. And +3 is like a perfect 10. It's like the best thing. I gave for this particular arc, because we did this the ratings for the arc. I gave this arc a 2.25, which I guess would translate maybe 8.5, 8 7/4, something like that. It was great stuff, but I mean, perfection, I feel is kind of, being a perfectionist myself, perfection is hard to get, because as soon as you think you've got it, you can do better. As a whole, Andor, it's great. To have a spy series, to have a Mission Impossible, to have a I Spy, to have an Alias, whatever, set in Star Wars. Loved it. It's the total escape from the lightsabers and wizardry of Jedi and Sith. It's not the battlefield tales of Clone Wars. It is the espionage, and I absolutely love that aspect.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All right. And I will give episode 10, I'll give it a 7. It started off slow for me, and then had a decent ending. So I'll give it a 7. All right. So that is episode 10, folks. Now over to episode 11, which happens to be called Who Else Knows? That's right, people. Who else knows? So this episode, like I said, dropped with the last 3 episodes, 10, 11, and 12, May 13th. Once again, like I said, this was directed by Alonso Ruspalacios and written by Tom Bissell. And, going into this episode after watching, 10, I wasn't too sure where they were going to go with this. I wasn't sure if we're going to get more Clea, if we're going to get more Deidre. I don't know if we were going to be seeing Cassian at all and stuff like that. So, I wasn't too sure just exactly what they were going to do with this second to last episode. And if they were really going to push it even more towards, Rogue One and, get it, ready for that. So, I was surprised with how this episode ended up. And I think that overall, it was an interesting episode. I thought this one was a little bit better than episode 10. So basically, this one, starts off with Deidre is interrogated by Krennic, who admonishes her for allowing sensitive information about the secret Imperial weapons project to be leaked from her database, and for confronting Luthen without sufficient backup. So we'll stop there because there's quite a bit that goes on in that little sequence, which is really fantastic. We get Krennic back, who is played by the awesome, amazing character actor that absolutely just love him, Ben Mendelsohn. Of course, we saw him in the Captain Marvel. We saw him in Secret Invasion. One of the first films I ever saw him in was, of course, Vertical Limit in 2000. That was one of the first films I ever saw him in. Fell in love with him immediately because he was freaking hilarious in that film. And I've been enjoying any movie he's in ever since. He's just fantastic. So going off of just that little beginning section there with the interrogation of Deidre by Krennic and all that kind of stuff, what are you guys' thoughts on that leading to up to, not having enough backup to interrogate Luthen? And I'll start with you, Mike.
I absolutely loved it. I loved how it reminded me quite a bit of like the interrogation scene of Han and Empire, sort of what Kylo does to Rey in Force Awakens. But there's no tech. It's just Krennic and that finger on top of her head. And it's like drilling it in. And I think this is like the first time we really see Deidre ready to crap her pants. I was like, but I did everything right. I didn't do the leak. Check my code keys. It's someone else. And it was known she was going to be the scapegoat all along. So I loved how everything played out and what it leads to, where we go next.
All right. Thank you, sir. Excellent. Going over to you, Jeff, your thoughts, sir, on that beginning sequence leading up to, not having sufficient evidence to interrogate Luthen.
Yeah. Obviously, Krennic is great, and God, I don't know why I'm struggling with his name, but the actor that that plays him is Ben Mendelsohn is really good. Good shit, man. Secret Invasion was garbage, but he was good in fucking Secret Invasion. I'll tell you that. He wasn't the problem. You know what I'm saying? But it's watching an Imperial interrogation, is good. It's cool, and it's menacing, and dark and violent, and aggressive. You know what I'm saying? Pick your verb. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on there, but I thought it was really well acted, and really, really well done, and I love the look of the Imperial buildings, like the ISB building, or whatever, the offices and all that. I love how they look, I love that that Krennic is there, to clean up, the leak of the Death Star. It's such a cool, reason for him to appear, it's just it's now that obviously they know that the Empire's on the run, because of the leak, and Deidre's fucked, she's eventually gonna end up getting interrogated herself, probably, even worse, and imprisoned, so I don't think the Empire's gonna just let her go, I feel bad for her, but that's just the way shit goes, unfortunately. And it's a really good scene, Cyber. That's it.
Excellent, sir. Thank you very much. Good job once again. All right, Mr. Drew, your thoughts, sir, on that little section.
It's pretty wonderful. The interrogation scene is, it's been memed to death already. It was one of those things where the memes were popping up the day after the episode aired. But obviously the acting chops of both Deidre and Krennic, Ben Mendelsohn, they're all, everyone's really, really good in the scene. It's all very strong. It feels like a real interrogation that an Empire would be doing with a leak or a potential spy, because I don't think they know exactly what Deidre is yet. I think Mendelsohn even implies that she might, this all points to you being involved somehow with the rebellion. Obviously, she's in the dark about everything about Jung. She didn't even know that Luthen like already had all the information from his own leak. So it's sort of interesting in that like Deidre is coming to terms with the idea that she's about to get swallowed by the system that she's been so adamantly defending for basically her entire life. Like she's seen it do it to others, but she just sort of maybe didn't realize that like herself was on the chopping block. I think this. I remember reading somewhere that somebody said like this is basically how like old school Russia basically acted. Like when something like this would, like if a leak or something happens, that everybody is just playing hot potato with the information to not be the essentially the scapegoat, that like somebody's head has to roll, and so everybody's like points fingers and doesn't want to have to take accountability here. And obviously here it's Deidre for the and essentially it just comes down to her botching the Luthen. You know, if she would have just ran in there and gotten Luthen immediately and not allowed him to do anything, destroy anything, and took him alive successfully, then yeah, she probably would be hailed as a hero. But the fact that Luthen got the edge on her and was able to off himself is like, oh, you messed up. Then you got to pay. The scene that right before this scene though, there's a pretty interesting scene where basically the ISB just takes over the hospital, and this is a very good sort of like it's like, well, what do we do off of Clea just infiltrated, killed Luthen, and then exited, and a whole bunch of people are dead. And it's like, okay, what do we do now? It's like, well, the ISB takes over, and the head of the hospital basically gets threatened to be taken as a spy if he doesn't cooperate, because he it's like his hospital. He wants to keep it open because it's a hospital, and they're like, no, you're closing the doors, and we're getting all the patients out of here. And it's like, oh, so it's just another sort of like nod at like, oh, the Empire's like pretty horrible. This is like, because they obviously don't give a fuck who dies or lives or whatever because of this whole incident. It's all about just trying to keep Luthen alive and figuring out what to do here. So yeah, pretty great setup for what's to come in the next part of the episode.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Excellent job. Yeah, a lot about that beginning sequence, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's just so well done. And we had such great, people in that scene, great actors and actresses that just worked really hard, and they made that scene very impactful. And just like Mike said, it did seem very much like what a real Imperial interrogation would be like. And I think that was done very well like that. So I agree with that. All right. So the investigation into Deidre is assigned to her former assistant, Hurt, who identifies Clea from security footage. Partagas declares Clea a public health concern to expedite her arrest. In the Coruscant safe house, Clea sends Wilmon a distress signal, prompting him to send Cassian, Melshi, and K2SO there to retrieve Luthen, alienating the group further from Yavin 4's leadership. So we'll stop there. So I love that we, the end of, I think it was episode 9, we got to see, K2SO come back to life. We saw him become, the new droid that he is, that we saw in Rogue One, that we all fell in love with. I love that we got Cassian back, and I think that, I definitely thought we would see Clea again at this point, because she kind of has become a big pivotal, thing. But I really enjoyed this section. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was very entertaining and very interesting as well. As Jeff had mentioned about Coruscant just looking so cool. I love how much we've gotten to see of Coruscant in this series from season 1 and season 2. And that's been so much fun, because I always remembered in the prequel films how much I loved every time they would go to Coruscant and how cool I thought it looked. And I would love to see more of what happens in Coruscant, because it's such an interesting city, especially being kind of the capital of the Empire, if you think about it, because that's where Palpatine was all this time. I thought that was somewhere that would be really fun to see all the time. And I'm so glad we got to see so much of it, and kind of the inner workings of Coruscant that we never got to see. So I think that was real genius writing and integration into the TV series. So what are your guys' thoughts on this section leading up to, the message going out, the stress signal for them to, basically go and retrieve Luthen? What did you think about that? What did you think about K2SO popping back up and being his snarky, hilarious self. What did you think about Clea and just overall this whole portion, seeing Partagast again and seeing Hurt again and all that kind of good stuff? And this time I'll start with you, Mr. Drew.
Well, I love every single. I think I can say this. Every single scene with K2SO is gold in both Andor and in Gold 1. He's he's one of the best droids, if not the best droid that they've done. It's a really funny scene when they're playing like space poker or something. I don't know. They're playing Sabacc. I don't even know what the game is, but they're essentially like messing with him like by bluffing at a hand, and he's like complaining that what they just did is illogical because there's too much money in the pot versus how much, it's some sort of jargon like that. But it's really quite funny because they're both like smiling and have a good time, and it feels like a nice little reprieve from all the crazy tense stuff that we've just watched. So having this little lighter character moment where they're just sort of dunking on the droid is pretty funny. And of course the delivery and all that from the droid's POV is great as well. I quite like the scene with Partagast and Ben Mendelsohn and who's the guy that takes over for Dedra? Is his name Hirt or something like that? That scene's pretty interesting. There's a couple neat lines, like when Partagast basically on the fly comes up with like the story of, oh, Clea is like a disease-ridden person. We need to capture her, otherwise she might spread a deadly virus or whatever. It's sort of neat. That's the story he came up with so quickly because, as we remember in season 1, Partagast is like one of his opening speeches when we first meet him. Is he's comparing the ISB to like the Empire's like medical doctors or a healthcare system that searches out viruses and kills them before they get a chance to spread. And so it's sort of neat here, like it's sort of a callback to that opening scene. Is like he's now literally using a story that there's a diseased person that they need to capture. So that's sort of interesting on like a deeper level. I also I like the dialogue quite a bit between him and Ben Mendelsohn because he's Partagast is sort of lamenting about everything at this point. You can tell he is starting to doubt everything he's been doing at this point and just seeing a lot of flaws in the system that he's strongly supported. He even sort of laughs at the idea that this thing is called the Death Star. He's I forget exactly how he words it, but he's like, the Death Star? Like, really? That's what we're calling it? And Ben Mendelsohn has a nice little line where he calls him like by his first name. I think it's the first time we heard Partagast's first name. It's like Leo. He's like, I can't protect you, Leo. And it's like, that's a great little line because it's just like a tiny bit of world building in there. That means these two have a nice lush history. The fact that they're on this like a first name basis, and it's like the first time we've heard that anybody speak to Partagast like that. So that I love all that little stuff like that. That's the stuff I crave, and when I'm trying to like get into a really good story like this. And yeah, I mean that's basically it's like Clea needs rest. She pulls out like an old radio or something. And it's like an SOS. It's like an old telegraph or something. All it sends is ... .. So they get the message and they know I guess they don't know about Luthen yet. They assume it is Luthen. So I think they have to form a little mission to go get him. Meanwhile, the bad guys are trying to figure out how to get Clea. So there's a really lovely ticking clock in this episode. That's all I got for that one.
All right, thank you, sir. Excellent. All right, going over to you, Jeff. Your thoughts, sir, on that section?
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving the Clea stuff. The way that they have the hideout apartment like the way it looks is perfect. It looks just like you'd expect a rundown cheap lay low kind of apartment, hideout apartment. Like it's exactly what you'd expect. Kind of run down. I love her having to go into all these hidden crack nooks and crannies and stuff like that, and like break the fucking wall open and shit. To like find all her gear. You know what I mean? Like to get her radio equipment, she's got to like break the wall open, or whatever to get it. To get the equipment. It's very spy like ish. You know what I'm saying? Like very like heavy spy shit type stuff. To be doing that. It makes you think about the work that like her and Luthen put in setting up the stash house. for like this kind of moment, like preparation and all that went into it. It's really cool. And the scene with Krennic and Leo is really good, like Drew said. And the ISB, the inner workings of the ISB, figuring out, how to handle finding Clea, is all really well done and entertaining. And I like the Coruscant centric location, of these episodes that we're talking about. Coruscant's a great setting, to have as like your spot, to have your scenes, and shoot it and all that, it makes the episode even better that it's in Coruscant, I think. I love the look of that apartment building that Clay is in, I love how like it kind of looks run down, and kind of like, dirty and everything, it's cool. I love seeing KS2O or whatever. He's really cool. He's definitely brings really cool energy, to whatever he's in. And the scenes, seeing Cassian again and seeing them on Yavin, and all that. Yavin, are cool. I love the whole jungle vibe of Yavin. It's interesting, it's a nice change from Coruscant. But that's it, Cyber.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All right. Over to you, Mike, sir. Your thoughts on that portion there, sir.
I absolutely, like Drew said, I absolutely loved seeing the new game where I believe it's called Rianza.
Okay.
Yeah, Rianza. It's almost a mix of dominoes and poker because they're playing with tiles. So it's almost like poker cards on tiles, but laid down almost like dominoes. But how they kept messing with K2 was brilliant. And it was like they were both in on it. I also love to, in this sequence, even though we never see Tarkin in the series, you really feel the rivalry between Krennic and Tarkin with the way Krennic's talking about him to Leo. And, basically saying, I can't let Tarkin win.
Mm-hmm.
At this point. It absolutely love that. And then what eventually happens to Leo is like, okay, this is exactly what I expect for a man of his stature. So I'm not going to say too much more in case I accidentally went too far. It's been a quick minute.
All right. Thank you, sir. As far as I know, you're right on point, sir. Very excellent. Great job. Thank you. I don't feel you. If you did go over, I didn't see it, but that's okay. We here on the MCU'S Bleeding Edge, as long as you're in the same context, that's all we care about. Anyways, so great job, everyone. Very well done. Just kind of curious, thinking about it while watching it, and leading up to the end there, where we're introduced to Cassian, Melshi, and K2SO going to retrieve Luthen, from the distress signal and everything. What did you guys think of that that machine they were using to do the Morse code? Did you think that looked very Star Wars-y, or do you feel like that looked a little too modern to be part of Star Wars? Because I thought it looked a little too modern, in my opinion. Comparing like when this is supposed to be taking place, especially it's supposed to be a prequel, so it's supposed to be earlier in the Star Wars universe era. So I felt it looked a little like too much like almost like a bomb, like you were gonna set off bombs in like a spy movie almost. I felt But I just was curious as what you guys thought about how that machine looked. What did you think, Drew?
Its appearance didn't outright bother me. It's because it's technology in Star Wars has always been in a weird place, specifically like in the era we're in Star Wars. It's like obviously like humanity at this point has excelled in a lot of better ways than they do, even though they've got spaceships and light speed and all that. Like obviously it's like one of those like, well, you can't just, they don't have like the cloud or email or text. You can't just text this information. You got to use an old like telegraph. It reminded me like of an old telegraph machine where it specifically just sends Morse code, which is like, well, wouldn't they have a machine that allows you to relay messages that didn't just require bleeps and bloops? I think I was okay with it because for a plot reason, it was specifically a thing that like Imperial people couldn't pick up on, and it would be if they did find the message in the ether, they wouldn't be able to know what the beeps and bloops meant versus like an actual message where they would be able to decipher it immediately, obviously. So I think I was okay with it. The look didn't bother me outright, but I wasn't really closely monitoring the tech in that scene, so I didn't really take notice.
Excellent. Any thoughts, Jeff, yourself on the machine?
No, I didn't even pay attention to it. I thought it was fine.
Okay. How about you, Mike? Did you have any thoughts on the machine there that they used for Morse code?
I thought it was fine. I mean, for a sci-fi looking Morse code machine compared to what's been used in the past with a little paddle switch for the taps in the, you know, during the height of Morse code, and even now it's a button on a console that's used to tap it out. You know, modern day. I thought it fit Star Wars fine. I mean, I could see where you were saying it looked a little too modern day or modern world. Maybe with the box it was in. But I think the actual unit, the control panel part of it, I was perfectly fine with. I was almost surprised that there wasn't a screen that automatically translated the dots and dashes.
Excellent, thank you. I just thought that was kind of interesting how that machine looked. I thought it was different, and I just was curious what others thought of it that might have noticed it. So excellent job, guys. Thank you. All right, so back to the story. So basically, we are at the part. Deidre gives Hurt insight into Luthen's communications technologies from her cell, enabling his team to track Clea's signal to the safe house, where they arrive close behind Cassian and Melshi. Clea passes on Luthen's crucial intelligence, but asks to stay behind given the distrust of Luthen among the rebels on Yavin 4. As Hurt's team closes in, K2SO breaks into the building in pursuit, and that's how the episode ends. And in this section 2 here, we get some great K2SO like thought process, him like bantering with Cassian. They're playing a game or something like that happens within this portion. We have him like as he's on the ship and stuff like that, and he's making like just all these random things, like just how K2SO talks and everything, which is hilarious. And I think that it's done well. I think it's funny. I think K2SO is such a great character, and I absolutely love that we got to see him in this series. But what are you guys' thoughts on this conclusion of the episode? What did you like? What did you hate? Your overall thoughts and kind of how it ends, and just, you know, any other thoughts you might have on the episode. And let's start with you, Jeff.
Oh yeah, I mean, I mean, I really thought the episode was a little short for me. I wish it could have been a little bit longer, but that's just, the Andor fan of me, I guess, right? It's only a 44-minute long episode. I was expecting this kind of like, hour long, like sort of, plus type, epic kind of episode with episode 11. And they went kind of a different direction with it. It's more of a, an episode building up to the finale, probably, I think, and still a good episode, but just a very laid back episode. I think it was I thought it was kind of weird seeing Cassian fly that ship right in the building space of Coruscant. I didn't realize you could do that, because Mom Mothma, when you see her flying around Coruscant, she's always in one of those like traveler, craft, type crafts, she like rides in a different, like she doesn't ride in big, starship kind of like ships. So I was just surprised that you could just fly around like that in Coruscant, a little bit at first. But then, they had the helipad, or the pad there, and, he landed there and everything, and it worked out fine. So I guess, you can. So I thought that was, it looked cool seeing them fly around in Coruscant, I thought that was neat. And, I like seeing Cassian and having Cassian involved in the episode, he's a good character. I felt like they spent a long time debating, whether or not Clea was going to leave, you know what I'm saying? That they didn't have time to waste. You know what I mean? So I didn't really understand why they were, kind of just going back and forth like that, and Clea wanting to stay and all that. You know what I mean? I didn't really understand that. I felt like, she should want to leave, and like stay alive. You know what I'm saying? She's not going to make it in Coruscant, obviously, the ending was a little surprising that they left it hanging like the way they did. But it's still cool. I enjoyed it. I looking forward to seeing what happens, obviously, because it is such a, kind of, drop off kind of, ending of the episode, where, like some big shit's about to happen. Right. Overall, it's a great episode, seeing the Imperial troopers, going through the apartment building and all that was neat. I like the Imperial stuff, and the little bit of K2SO, some more, was good. And short episode, and I do really like that actress that plays Clea, though. She's done a great job, in Andor season 2. She's been fun to see.
Thank you, sir. Excellent. All right, going over to you, Mike. Your thoughts on the conclusion of the episode?
I loved how with Clea, she's actually using the same apartment that they used for Bix for the safe house.
Is it the same apartment?
Same
it
apartment.
Is.
Yep.
So yes, Darius Stone, that is.
Yeah. But I also like with the ISB team, the pilot of their craft. The helmet looks very much like the shore trooper or the tank driver or the AT-ACT drivers, except it doesn't have the fully enclosed front. It's an open front. So it's like they took everything below the ridged visor section down away, but left everything else from the helmet. I'm like, okay, so this is an ISB trait, and that maybe the ISB troops, this is the look of their troops. And if the regular stormtroopers could have been modified to have the same type of helmet, they probably would have. But stormtroopers is just stormtroopers and generic armor. The thing that bugged me was the frequency tracker that they used. It's like, really? It's going to be that simple? And it's like, it annoyed me big time, that tracker. But other than that, I loved how everything played out, how K2 comes to the rescue, and it definitely shows K2 will listen until he sees that the situation isn't going as planned. And then he's going to take matters into his own hands. but I thoroughly enjoyed the episode. All right, in the way this concluded, except for the frequency tracker.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I thought it was a really great episode. I liked it better than episode 10 myself. I liked how it ended with K2SO going in and just batting the dude out front. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. It was totally in K2SO fashion. But one thing, before we get to rating this episode, I was just curious, what is with all the Imperial officers wearing stormtrooper outfits without the helmets? That I thought was kind of stupid. I was like, why are they dressed? Why aren't they just dressed like stormtroopers? Why do they have just the outer chest piece going on? I absolutely don't remember that at all in any previous Star Wars film ever. So I think it's hilarious that they decided to do it in this series, if that's something new. But I'm just curious, what are you guys' thoughts?
I thought it was modified, a different variation of the officer armor, like what we see General Veers use in Empire Strikes Back, or what we see all the non-stormtroopers using, like even Han Solo himself on mid-band. It just looked like a different variation of that. I mean, those armors looked like something similar to the Galactic Marine / Snowtrooper armor, whereas this lends itself to looking more like Snowtrooper meets Clone Trooper-esque armor. But instead of being segmented, two-piece segmented, it's a solid unit.
Anybody else? Anybody else have thoughts on it?
It was a little weird that they aren't, like, why wouldn't you want to protect your face? Like, just in that level, like you're going into a dangerous situation. Why aren't you? But I mean, the armor itself doesn't protect at all against blaster fire anyway. So the whole thing is sort of moot.
That's what I mean.
Like,
that's my whole point. Like, why are you dressing kind of like a stormtrooper when it doesn't do anything for you anyways? Because you can still get killed with the blaster, regardless you're wearing it anyways.
Or a stick, like in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I just thought it was hilarious. I thought it was kind of stupid. Because I mean, nothing against putting on different types of armor, but at the same time, it's like stormtroopers are stormtroopers, Imperial guards are Imperial guards, and I just think that it looks better when they look like Imperial guards and versus a stormtrooper. So I just thought that was kind of funny how I saw that throughout the last few episodes, several like armor guys wearing partial like stormtrooper almost outfits, and I was just kind of cracking up, going, "Huh, that's interesting." But anyways, what are your guys' ratings on this episode? Start with you, Jeff.
I'll give this episode an 8, sir.
All right, Drew.
I would say an 8 is on point. Absolutely.
All right, Mike. What would you give it?
I go 8.5.
All right.
Sure.
And like I said, I enjoyed this episode more than 10, so I'm going to give it episode 10. I'm going to give it a 10 because it checked all my boxes that makes it entertaining for me. So I have to give it a 10. I thought it was a really superb episode. All right. Excellent. Any final words on this episode, folks? Anybody have anything else they'd like to mention?
I'm good.
All right. Drew or Mike, anything else to say?
I just loved how badass the ISB sergeant was in this whole thing. It's like, why couldn't the guy on Gorman be the same way?
There was tons of Imperials in here that were like giving off Thrawn energy.
Yeah.
I felt that Thrawn was very mishandled in the Ahsoka show. But like Partagaz, actually all of the angry Imperials that were like doing smart things, like, oh, Thrawn, this would have been a great Thrawn.
Excellent. Awesome. All right, everyone, another 1 billion points. All great job. All right, great job. So that's the end of episode 11, folks, and that is our 2-episode arc. As always, we always have our Danny Award recipient or our special award for those that are on the panel. How many points you have, get you the coveted spot. And tonight it is Mr. Mike from Wookiee Radio Podcast. You are the winner of the points tonight, sir. Congratulations.
Cyber, the Danny Award is not positive, sir. It was never a positive thing.
Wait, it was me.
I don't know why you're suddenly giving away Danny Award. Winning the Danny Award is bad, sir.
Well, I turned it into something good, sir. So
that's the Danny Award. I mean, it's not positive.
Yeah. But I think it's positive. I think it's really positive because, there's a lot of great Special Olympic medalists out there. Okay. So I think it's positive. But anyways, you still are the winner tonight, Mr. Mike. Thank you for joining us. Thank Mr. Drew for joining us. And I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Danny Award lover.
Okay. Yeah. The Danny Award. Most definitely. Anyways, appreciate you though, Mike. Thanks for coming on. You know what I'm saying? I'm all about you winning the panel award or whatever. Just you don't want the Danny Award, sir.
Well,
at least not when I'm moderating. I'll put it to you that way. So, Cyber, sir, I'll go to you, sir, first for our plugs, and you can have at it, sir.
All right, folks, as always, if you enjoy me as a member of the panel or as a moderator like I was tonight, you can check out my solo content. You'll find me under Cyberneticshark on YouTube, TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, Threads, Tumblr, pretty much any place you can find a stream. As you can see there, my most recent movie review is the film Final Destination Bloodlines. If you have not seen that review, check that out. It was a really fun film. It was definitely worth the almost 20-year wait to get a sequel. So definitely a great film. Check out that if you haven't seen that. Or if you haven't seen my trailer reaction to Caught Stealing, which is an upcoming Darren Aronofsky directed film with Austin Butler. Check out that review trailer reaction as well. Really fun film. And as recently still on for my movie shorts, my little bitty shorts, of course, still is the film Messiah of Evil, which is a 1973 horror film directed by the husband and wife duo that created and directed the film Howard the Duck. They did this film back in the 70s, and it's quite interesting. Definitely worth watch on Shudder. Most definitely check it out. And then, of course, my Megan 2.0 mini review as well. If you have not seen that, give that a whirl. And of course, I'll be having more stuff for you guys. Another video will drop tonight, and keep your eyes up for that. It'll be another trailer reaction. We have more stuff up for you guys soon, more reviews of films. I still have my 28 years later review to put up, my Elia review, my Megan 2.0 review, and several others. So keep your eyes out for that stuff. Just want to thank everyone and all my subscribers. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel. And of course, as always, I want to thank everyone for watching us here in the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. Keep watching us here. Keep on watching all these great panelists we have come on. And, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button as well as also check out the Patreon page where you can get cool stuff, too, that you don't get here. So, yeah, check you out later.
All right. Mike, Wookiee Radio. Go ahead, sir.
Try and put out weekly if we can. But, life happens, and whether it's us or Star Wars news. Check us out on Instagram at Wookiee Radio. Email us at wookieradio@gmail.com with any questions, comments, concerns. We want to hear from you all. And so does J7.
Now that sounds like someone after my own central processor.
But yeah, you can also find the shows along with the other two shows I run, Weeby Geeks and Mighty Marvel Geeks, over on the Weeby Geeks Podcast Collective at weebygeekspc.com.
Thank you, sir. All right. Drew, I will pull you up, sir, and then we will get out of here. Nights of Nostalgia. Here you go. Have at it, sir.
Oh, well, I'm the Knights of Nostalgia. You can find me live a few times a week, playing retro games. Usually, if you're in the chat and you have something you want to say to me or talk about movies or anything pop culture related, that's usually what we're talking about in there. I got a fun little community on Discord as well, where we watch weekly movies on Sundays and have tons of channels. I play a lot of games. Me and some friends have made recent videos just discussing Andor and a few of the older Star Wars stuff. There's nothing really on the horizon for us yet on something like anything else as far as movie discussion goes, but the live streams are the heart of my channel. So if you like gaming and want to talk, that's what we can do.
All right, Drew, and we appreciate seeing you again, brother. It's good to have you back.
Absolutely, it was fun.
And that is our wrap up for Andor's episode 10 and 11, folks. We are out of here. Thanks everybody that joined the panel tonight. Good job, Cyber moderating. We appreciate you. And peace out, folks.